Welcome to the Bulldog Beat Basketball Show, episode number 2. I'm the voice of the Bulldogs, Rob Bentley, alongside Sandy Golston as we continue coverage of Ferris State men's and women's basketball. Both teams getting ready for a big road trip coming up on Thursday at Lake Superior State, 5:30, 7:30 starts. Then back at home on Monday night for the first ever appearance for the Roosevelt Lakers here at Jim Wink Arena. An exciting weekend this past weekend, Sandy, for the Bulldogs. Both teams come out with a split. The women fall to Northern Michigan, but bounce back in a huge way with a big win over Michigan Tech on Saturday, and then the Ferris State men, of course, got the close win over Northern Michigan. Then what a game we had on Saturday. Unfortunately, the Bulldogs fall in overtime to Michigan Tech, but an exciting game for the fans that were on hand.
Yeah, it was an incredible game, really. Fans certainly got into it, and Bulldogs really did a great job of battling back at the end of regulation, forcing overtime, and just came up just a little bit short in the extra session, but. This is life in the GLIAC, and pretty tough to go undefeated in a conference this strong. And, when you talk about Ferris State playing a Northern Michigan, a Michigan Tech, a Lake Superior State, Grand Valley, Saginaw, Wayne State, whoever you want to talk about in this conference, Parkside, Purdue Northwest, you're going to be playing some tough competition. And I think the Bulldogs saw that, and everybody in the GLIAC knows that. That's not exactly breaking news, but what a game. I mean, it was a thriller of a game, and a great individual performance by the GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week and for Michigan Tech. And, the Bulldogs, they got to shake it off because they got another test that's going to be at least as tough on Thursday.
You mentioned that performance. Marcus Tomaszek for Michigan Tech, 45 points. I was trying to remember where that ranked in terms of some of the best performances we've seen in Wink Arena history. And Reese Hazelton, actually, I interviewed him on the Ferris Sports Update TV show this week. He brought up Max Bjorklund that had the big game for Northern Michigan, very similar in terms of that performance. It's going to go down as one of the top performances, and it took all of that for Michigan Tech to find a way to beat the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one by Bjorklund. Marcus Wallace had a 40-point game when he was a Bulldog, ironically playing against Grand Valley in the earlier years of this Wink Arena. But it was a performance for the ages. It was a great performance, and hats off to him. I mean, he was phenomenal. You score that many points, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, some guys don't get that for a career. So that was just a fantastic performance, and hats off to him.
Obviously, it spoiled what were some good performances on the Bulldogs side as well. Ethan Erickson, 20-plus points in that game, and really helped bring the Bulldogs back. They had to fight back in the second half of that game, forced overtime, and then unfortunately just a good start in overtime for Michigan Tech that allowed them to kind of jump on front and held on for the win down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, when you find yourself in an overtime game, and when you're a team like the Bulldogs and you had to really fight and scrap to get it to overtime, and you're on that emotional lift, and then you take that deep breath a little bit, you get into overtime, and sometimes if a team can get those first couple of buckets, and that's what Michigan Tech did. They got those first couple of buckets, and they got off to a good lead. And when you get into a 4-point deficit in overtime, that 5 minutes goes by quick. And that's kind of what it felt like. And they were able to get some key stops, and they had a good performance. But the Bulldogs come into that weekend, Thursday and Saturday, and you get a win over Northern Michigan. That's a good win. And then you get a win. You fall short against Michigan Tech. That's tough. On the women's side, it was the opposite. The women had a tough game against Northern Michigan, very tough game. But give credit to that team. And we'll hear more about that during the course of the show. But they bounced back, Rob, in a big way, and they had a very, very impressive performance in beating Michigan Tech on Saturday.
Of course, both Ferris State teams in action this week, and we'll hear from assistant coach Josh Fleming on the men's basketball side. We'll hear from one of the Bulldog women's basketball players as well as the show goes on here over the next hour. But both teams geared up. It's life in the GLIAC. You get two tough opponents in here this past weekend, but now you get ready for a huge challenge on the road. Both teams traveling to Lake Superior. Again, 5:30 start for the women's game on Thursday night, tomorrow night. And, of course, the men's game, 7:30 p.m. We'll have pregame coverage for you at 5 o'clock, but does not get any easier. A tough place to play up in Sault Ste. Marie, Bud Cooper Gymnasium.
Yeah, I mean, Lake Superior State, we had a classic game against them earlier in the season, and Ethan Erickson hit a big shot to lift the Bulldogs to a win in that game. So that the Lake Superior State is they're hungry for any of a number of reasons. And certainly Lake Superior State, they remember what happened last year in the regional tournament against Ferris State, as the Bulldogs went on to win that regional championship. And they know the game earlier this season. But even if you throw all of that aside and I know it's cliche, but you throw all the records out the window, you get these two teams with these two coaches. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be hard fought. It's just going to be really tough. On the women's side, we saw it last year. Lake Superior State, the women, they play well at home. They play well. They'll play you tough at home. So we're definitely going to have to be ready on the women's side to play that game too.
Of course, a tough facility to play in. I remember going back to the national championship season, the Bulldogs over the course of that year played 39 games, lost one game. It was at Lake Superior State, and a game where Lake Superior State really controlled that contest and came away with the win.
Yeah, the lone regular season blemish on and postseason for that matter. Obviously, when you go and win a national championship, but it was there, and I think that was some of the early roots of the rivalry that we know today. And it's been a good rivalry. It's been a fun rivalry since Coach Hedinga has been up there at Lake Superior State, and we know him, and he does a great job with that program. And we know Coach Bronkema does a great job here at Ferris State. And so it's you go back all those years, and since then, we've had some great matchups with that team.
What great matchups we've had on the men's basketball side. The 3-game stretch here, you had Coach Bronkema against Coach Mackerzak from Northern Michigan, Coach Bronkema against Coach Bittner from Michigan Tech, and now he's got Coach Hedinga, really four of the top coaches, not only in the conference, but maybe in the region or in the country.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many great coaches in the GLIAC on both sides, but you just mentioned that run that we've been on and the coaches that we've had to face. And, we talked a little bit about Michigan Tech and Josh Bittner learning at the hands of one of the masters, Kevin Luke, who we know and like so much. And, that's as good a teacher as you can have. And so, those are some great coaches, and running into another one on Thursday. And so, that's what it's all about. There's just on the men's and women's side, there's just so many great coaches, so many well-prepared teams. And it's stuff that probably keeps Coach Fleming and Coach Bronkema and Coach Westendorp, Coach McCartney, keeps them up all night just trying to get preparation with so many well-coached teams.
Of course, Lake Superior State on the women's side, a team that's trying to grow under a new coaching staff. And obviously the Bulldogs will take on Lake Superior, kind of a unique week. No Saturday games here. Bulldogs will have the weekend off, but then back at home for a special Monday night doubleheader as Ferris State will take on Roosevelt University. Had a chance to play Roosevelt back in early December. We didn't get a chance to go to those games down in the Chicago area, of course, due to playoff football with Ferris State playing at home that particular weekend. But we'll get to see Roosevelt for the first time, and they've got two pretty good basketball teams that are playing some exciting basketball.
Yeah, they do. I was actually watching them Monday night against Wayne State, the men's team. Didn't watch as much of the women's game, but they're both teams are not coming in like maybe you would think teams would come in, stepping up a level and then coming into the GLIAC. They've played competitively. They've, especially on the men's side, they've had some really good wins, and they've been competitive in some of their women's games as well, and they've gotten some success. So it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be Monday night basketball. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and looking forward to welcoming Roosevelt to campus here for the first time.
So, of course, Ferris State the weekend off. Then they get Roosevelt on Monday. Going to be a busy week next week. You got Roosevelt on Monday night. Then you're at Davenport on Thursday, at Grand Valley State on Saturday. And Bulldogs are having to play this second go-around now here in the GLIAC schedule. And not a lot of home games, just 3 home games remaining, counting the 2 games coming up on Monday night.
That's quite a stretch. I mean, you're home against Roosevelt on Monday, and then you're add to 2 of your closest rivals in terms of playing at Davenport on Thursday and then coming back and playing at Grand Valley on Saturday. So, it's a lot. It's a grind. But at the same time, you're playing good teams, A, and B, you're playing rival teams. So we know you go down to Davenport, they play well. Davenport plays well at home. Grand Valley, we know, plays well at home, and those are rivalry games, so everybody's going to be fired up. Both teams are going to be fired up. The coaches are going to be fired up. The fan bases are going to be fired up. We're going to be seeing good crowds, and so again, that's life in the GLIAC, and so if you're not built for it, then you probably got to go someplace else.
Of course, both Ferris State teams having excellent seasons once again. The Bulldog men right now 18-3 overall, tied for first place atop the GLIAC. It's a 3-way tie now after the game last Saturday between Ferris State, Lake Superior, and Michigan Tech. All 3 teams at the top of the conference standings. On the women's side, Ferris State right now the clear-cut number 2 behind Grand Valley State as the Bulldogs are 14-5 overall. Got the big bounce-back win over Michigan Tech on Saturday, and they did it against a Michigan Tech team that was playing as as well as anyone in the conference, coming in and won 3 straight games.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly concerning, coming off of a tough loss to Northern Michigan, and Michigan Tech coming in playing some really good basketball. And, they're still a very dangerous team. They got a lot of weapons out there. They're historically well coached. That has not changed at all for that program. And they get after it at the defensive end of the floor. Bulldogs, I thought, responded really well. They got off to a great start. And they were back to playing more of their brand of basketball. They were getting after it defensively. They were getting after loose balls. They were hitting some shots. And so, those are some good prescriptions for success, especially coming off a tough loss a couple days earlier to Northern Michigan.
Obviously, Ferris State coming into this matchup on Thursday night at Lake Superior State. The Bulldogs are going to have to come out. Both games really try to set the tone early, play some exciting basketball from the start. Yeah,
I mean, when you go on the road into tough environments like that, and we go up to the Sioux, you know that it's going to be night games, and so people are going to come out. Weather looks like it, at least down here in Big Rapids, it looks good. I haven't looked at for the Sioux, but things are warming up a little bit, so you'd expect, hey, probably going to see some good crowds, for these 2 Lake Superior State games, and so you got to be ready to walk into the eye of the storm, and you got to be ready to play well. And as you said, you want to really get off to a good start, because if you're not off to a good start, then you're going to be climbing a mountain, and that's not something you want to do on the road.
We'll have more of the Bulldog Beat basketball show coming up after this quick break here on the Bulldog Sports Network. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Beat basketball show. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you. We're joined now by Ferris State University assistant coach Josh Fleming. Coach, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What's it been like here being able to coach this team? Obviously, you guys are off to a great start again here this year, 18-3, and a lot of goals, a lot of games still in front of you. But I know you got to be pleased with where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy with the early success that we had. We know that it's going to be a long season, especially getting ready to go back through the GLIAC another time. We know that there's some things that we got to clean up and kind of reinvent ourselves a little bit. But I mean, so far it's been fun. I love this group.
Obviously, coming off last year's success, going to the Elite Eight, you guys lost a lot of talent from last year's team, 6 seniors that were lost to graduation. How have these new guys kind of came in and kind of filled that void and really adjusted the guys that were returning?
Yeah, we lost a lot of great players that contribute a lot, but we returned a lot of good players too, and a lot of players that have a lot of experience. Got Michael Bingham back, and he's been huge. He's been playing great for us. I think that the major message going into this year was that, I mean, we got to start where we're at. I mean, the season doesn't start in the Elite Eight. You know what I'm saying? So there's no guarantee that we'll go back, no guarantee to make the tournament, but we're just doing everything that we can to get back to that point and maybe go further beyond.
And then, talk about, because we've talked about over the years about the redshirt program that the team has and what pride you guys take in player development. And talk about some of the guys from last year to this year. We've talked a lot about Nate Clairbout and how much work he put in the offseason to get better. You guys take a lot of pride in player development.
Yes, we do. I mean, a lot of the times the way it looks is that you come in, there's a senior and another guy in front of you. So you got to take what you can from those guys and learn from those guys, take that year to develop and get used to being coached by Coach Bronkema and myself. And then, the next year, hopefully you're playing some minutes as a backup. And then the year after that, you're ready to take over the starting spot. So, yeah, we take a lot of pride in player development. It's worked out for Nate. It's worked out for, in the past, Zach Hankins. It's worked out for a ton of people. And if you buy into it, it's proven that the formula works.
So take us back to let's go back in the time machine back to when you were a player here, and what was it like coming into Ferris? Because you guys, I don't know if you guys did know, you certainly know now, but you guys really started building something that eventually led to the national championship. Did you guys feel like that in the beginning or while it was happening, and did you take pride in it after it happened, the national championship?
Oh, yeah. I took a ton of pride in that. I was very proud and happy for my former teammates, like the seniors and juniors on that national championship team. I was super happy for them. And, I kind of knew that something was going to be – I knew that there was going to be a special program. Like when Coach Bronkema took over, Coach Saul was an awesome coach too, but he ended up moving on. Coach Bronx took over. And I always thought Coach Bronkema was different because I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him my freshman year. I didn't redshirt my freshman year. I played right away. And still, I mean, I learned a lot from Coach Bronkema. He gave me a lot of good advice, and he spent a lot of time working out with me after practice and stuff. And yeah, I knew that he was a very detail-oriented coach, and I mean, I knew that he was destined for success.
For sure. And it seems to me you had a pretty spectacular dunk in a game during your playing career. It was kind of like an OG viral moment here. Now tell us about that clip, because that clip has been played so many times. And do you still stumble across that clip every now and then?
Yeah, I do. Cole Walker, shout out to Cole, one of my best friends. Anytime I'm hanging out with him and we meet, like he introduces me to one of his friends or somebody that I don't know, he pulls that video up immediately. So I think the video's got like maybe 50-something thousand views, and I think Cole Walker and my mom are responsible for half of them. So
shout out to Cole and shout out to Mom for getting that was a sweet moment. It was one of the most fun calls that Rob and I have ever had. Talk about when you started to think about becoming a coach, and tell me about that process, because you had some basketball after Ferris State, but talk about when maybe the coaching picture started to come into focus. When I would come home for the summers after playing overseas, I would coach some AAU basketball with Big 3 basketball. It's our program out in Chicago suburbs. So I would do a little bit of coaching with them. And then when I was done playing, I actually had some classes to finish up. I didn't graduate right away. So I got a hold of Coach Bronkema during COVID, because I got back in that summer and started taking some summer classes. And I got in touch with Coach, and I asked if he'd allow me to volunteer on the staff. And once I started volunteering, I saw how many other aspects of the job that there are as opposed to just coaching. But the coaching part was the most fun, obviously, and it's a lot of learning and a lot of like development goes into being a coach too. And I mean, I kind of enjoyed that challenge. So once Coach McAfee over at Wayne State, when he decided to take that job and Coach Bronkema offered me the job, I was ecstatic. I accepted it right away. So yeah, it was it just doesn't, it's one of those jobs that doesn't really feel like work, and it's just a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. How different is it seeing the game from a coach's perspective versus seeing it from a player's perspective, and then having to kind of teach it to the players versus having to learn it as a player? What has that been like for you, and has that been more exciting for you as you've gotten deeper into your coaching journey?
Yeah, it's been more exciting. There's no better feeling than when you're trying to teach something to a player and then you see it finally click, and then they can apply it in game situations. Like, there's nothing like that feeling. So it's difficult. It's difficult sometimes to relay to them what you see, because when you're out on the floor, you have a completely different view than you do as a coach. Like, you're on the wing, you can see everything in front of you, but if you catch the ball in the post, you can only see what's right in front of you. You know what I mean? And from my spot, you see the whole floor sitting on the sideline watching the game. So that's just a difficult thing, and trying to relay to guys to, sometimes you gotta just slow down a little bit and look around and see what you got. But I don't know. That's just one of the many challenges about coaching. But it's awesome when they click and understand what you're talking about.
And let's go back to the end of last season, because you guys had a really strong regular season. But this region and conference, they're so competitive that, it's not necessarily a guarantee you're going to get into the regional tournament unless you win the conference tournament. Talk about that run that you guys got on at the end of the year, starting with the GLIAC tournament. That was a pretty special run.
Yeah, it was. It was an awesome run, and almost storybook, especially for a guy like Veas Grazoulis, who came on strong. And I think what went into that run was, this isn't an excuse because everybody deals with it, but we had so many guys injured. And then we started getting them all back. And once we got them all back and started to develop some chemistry, we were just full strength. And we had a lot of guys that contributed to that run. And if they hadn't gotten healthy at the right time, who knows if it happens. Even even at full strength, we were a Parkside 3-pointer away from probably not making the regional tournament. So it's just a little bit of luck goes into that. But, I mean, the timing was perfect. We got everybody back. We got everybody healthy, and we just played really well going down the stretch of the season.
And then one more question before I throw it back to Rob. But what's it like from the end of the season when you guys were in the Elite Eight to where you were starting the season? Because you have to learn a new team, and there's some returning players, but you graduated a lot of players that were really good and significant contributors. What was it like learning this team and then putting them in a position to be successful?
Truth be told, we're still learning our team. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I mean, I think that's what primes teams for a late run is. You kind of gotta keep learning and keep understanding like ways to make your guys effective. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's players who, like Michael Bingham, I've been watching him practice for 5 years now. And I'm still learning about the things that he's capable of doing and things that he kind of struggles with or needs improvement. And that's not just, he's just one example, but there's a ton of guys. So I think that, I mean, figuring out our team, we take a lot of time in the preseason to see what guys' strengths are and the things that they do well and things that need improvement. So I think it's just a season-long thing, and you just kind of got to keep rolling with the hot hand, you know?
Josh, what's it like here? I know being a former player, now when you see those other former teammates, those other alums come back to these basketball games, what's it like that, just having that bond with those guys that continue to follow and support the Bulldogs?
We love having those guys back, and I mean it's always special for me to have those guys around because they're great friends, and I mean friends in real life. You know, basketball. I mean that's where we came together, but we've been able to grow together outside of basketball, like in real life. So it's awesome having them back, and then to be able to tell my current players now like about these guys that are coming in to watch the game, like how good they were, and sometimes share some stories about things that happened in real life and stories about playing for Coach Bronkema. And I mean, it's really a testament to Coach Bronkema. I mean, he builds a family type atmosphere with Ferris State men's basketball. It's more than just a basketball program. It's kind of like how Duke calls it the brotherhood. I mean, it's similar to that. You know, I mean, you play for Coach Bronkema, you play for us, you're a Bulldog for life. And I mean, that's why after like games, win or loss, I find our guys, I find the alum that played for us and, you know, some that I played with and tell them, you know, get down here in this post-game huddle, win or lose, you're a part of this, you know what I'm saying? And this is something that we've all built together, and, you know, you get to celebrate and you get to kind of sulk with us, you know?
Well, I know we got to let you go here quickly. You're getting ready for practice. Maybe just talk about how the guys have kind of reacted to a tough game against Michigan Tech, and obviously a big game coming up on Thursday night against Lake Superior.
The Michigan Tech game was, I mean, it's kind of a classic game, honestly. Like it was such a good game, went into overtime, and I mean, unfortunately, we ended up taking the loss, but that's a very good team, very well coached, and they made some plays down the stretch. I mean, we did our part. We fought to take the game to overtime, try to give ourselves another chance to win, but just came up short. But the team understands that. They understand the way that things go, and I mean, we had probably some more plays to make. We shot 38% from the field, I believe. So, I mean, that could have been better, but I mean, we're just on to the next game. You can't feel sorry for yourself in the GLIAC because now we got Lake Superior that we have to go up there and play. And I mean, that's no easy task. So, I mean, we, from Coach Bronkema all the way down to the managers, understand what type of game that we're going into. So there's no time to feel sorry for ourselves about the Tech loss, and the guys understand that. So we're ready to get back to it.
Speaking of coaching, I got one more question I want to ask you. Just played some noon ball with a good friend of yours, Scott LaCourse, of course, a member of the Rebounders Booster Club, and obviously he's a guy I think needs some coaching, needs to learn how to pass the ball a little bit more. Can you help him out?
Oh man, shout out to Scott. Scott wants to be. Scott thinks he's like Magic Johnson or somebody like that. So you kind of gotta let him roll. But I mean, if you're gonna be taking shots, Scott, you got to get to your right hook, man. You just gotta get down into the post, get a back down drive into there, get to your right hook. However you got to do it. No 3-pointers. Get yours off the offensive glass and get to your right hook.
I like it. Well, Josh, thanks for the time here today, and best of luck coming up on Thursday night.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Beat basketball show after this break right here on the Bulldog Sports Network. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Beat basketball show. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you. This show presented by Two Hats Ranch as we continue coverage of our Ferris State men's and women's basketball teams. A weekly show, of course, episode number 2. And obviously, Ferris State right now, as we mentioned, getting ready to face Lake Superior State. Still very much in the GLIAC race, both in men's and women's basketball. And we'll have a chance to take a look at the GLIAC standings here shortly. But what a competitive race we should expect here over the next month or so.
Yeah, it's classic the way it's shaping up, and you see so many teams right now that feel good about their chances. If they can get hot here in this second half of the GLIAC schedule, there are a number of teams that feel like they're still in contention for, if not just to get into the playoffs, and certainly looking for some seeding opportunities. And so it's going to be very important for that. And once the regional rankings pictures start to come into sharper focus as we get closer toward the end of the regular season, that's going to be even more for these teams to play for.
Of course, on the men's basketball side, Ferris State right now, as we take a look at the GLIAC standings, tied for first overall with Lake Superior and Michigan Tech. All three teams at 8-2. The Bulldogs 18-3 on the year, number 15 in the country this week in the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Top 15 matchup on Thursday night as Lake Superior moves up to number 11 in the country this week. Michigan Tech right there, still very much in the race as well, and displayed this past Saturday. They're going to be a team to contend with. You got Northern Michigan, which is a good basketball team right now at 6-4, Grand Valley at 6-4, and Parkside at 6-4. And of course, Parkside owns wins over both Ferris State and Lake Superior. So quite the battle at the top here in the men's basketball standings.
Yeah, you got Wayne State right there. I mean, they're not too far off the pace either. You have a bad week, and you could start to tumble a little bit, or at least things can tighten up in the standings. And so it's a lot of basketball left to be played, and I don't think anybody's getting ready to set the celebration just yet. With so much basketball to be played, so many good teams, and so many opportunities.
Of course, this past weekend on Saturday, action in the GLIAC on the men's basketball side. It was Saginaw Valley posting a win at home over Roosevelt, 79-61. Parkside got a win on the road at Davenport, 72-64. Grand Valley State a couple wins last week. They defeated Purdue Northwest, 83-64. Lake State at home able to control Northern Michigan, and what was somewhat of a surprising score kind of illustrates the challenge the Bulldogs are going to face on Thursday night, 79-49. The final score in that ball game, and then of course the game we talked about already, Michigan Tech over Ferris State in overtime, 88-85 in an exciting game at Wink Arena. Action on Monday night. Wayne State fell at home to Roosevelt. Roosevelt coming up on Monday will be here at Ferris State. They defeated Wayne State in Detroit, 67-63.
Yeah, I mean Roosevelt's a good team. You've seen them a few times, and they've got some pretty quality wins that they've caught some people that maybe some people weren't expecting it, but I'm sure the coaches around the GLIAC know what Roosevelt is and know you have to be ready to play against that team. But, again, another great weekend of basketball in the GLIAC.
Of course, coming up this week, we mentioned the Thursday game, Ferris State at Lake Superior. Davenport and Grand Valley State going to have to battle, hopefully not through some weather, but they're going to have to battle some tough opponents in the Upper Peninsula as well, as Davenport will be at Michigan Tech. It's Grand Valley State traveling to Marquette to face the Wildcats in Northern Michigan. Purdue Northwest will be at home to host Wayne State, and Saginaw Valley State will make the trek out west as well, as they will travel to Kenosha, Wisconsin to face Parkside. Then on Saturday in the GLIAC, it'll be Davenport at Northern Michigan. Grand Valley State will travel to Houghton to face Michigan Tech. Lake State will remain at home as they play host to Roosevelt. It'll be Wayne State at Parkside, Saginaw Valley at Purdue Northwest, and then, of course, followed by the Monday night matchup, Roosevelt at Ferris State. Those will be the same matchups for both men's and women's basketball coming up this weekend.
Yeah, so some big games coming up for sure, and with Northern and Tech being home with Davenport and Grand Valley, going to be some interesting matchups there. And, you want to start saying, man, we could use some help from this team, or we could use some help. Everything is just so tightly compacted right now. I don't know that it necessarily makes a difference. I think we're probably a few weeks away before we start getting into that mindset of where you might be leaning toward one team winning over another team. But that's how tight the standings are right now.
Of course, in the GLIAC, you look at the bottom of the men's basketball standings, you've got Davenport and Purdue Northwest both at 1 and 9, and those are two teams that gave the Bulldogs all they could handle for parts of those games. And obviously, Ferris State, a team that's ranked in the top 15 and has been all season long. So shows you really the quality and the depth of the competition here in the GLIAC.
Yeah, I mean, those are some scary games, especially I don't even want to say especially. Both of those games were pretty scary for Ferris State. And it shows you when you got two 1-win teams at the bottom of your conference, but those are 2 1-win teams that on a day, they feel like they can beat anybody in the conference.
Let's move over to the women's basketball standings. Grand Valley State number 1 in the country at 20-1 on the year, currently leading the GLIAC at 10-0. Ferris State in second place, 8-2, sole possession of second place. The Bulldogs 14-5 overall, and they're followed by Northern Michigan at 7-3, Parkside at 6-4, Wayne State at 6-4, and Michigan Tech at 5-5 in the top half of the GLIAC women's basketball standings.
Yeah, but you look at pretty similar on the women's side. You go down toward the bottom of that conference, and you still got some teams. You get down there with Saginaw Valley. That's a dangerous team to play. We've seen Roosevelt be dangerous at times this year. And so, I mean, you start to get even down into that bottom end of the conference, and you still got some teams that could be dangerous if you're a little bit off your game at the top of the conference. So there's going to be some huge battles coming up. And you look at Michigan Tech at 5-5 in the conference, really good basketball team, some talented players on that team. Same with Wayne State. I've watched them a few times this year, including in person. Same with Tech. Those are some really some talented teams and some talented players, really up and down rosters. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find any roster on the women's side that doesn't have at least one pretty high-end type player that can be really dangerous.
Of course, going into the month of February, I think the next 2 or 3 weekends is going to be very important for both Ferris State basketball teams. You look at it, the Bulldog men at 18-3 overall right now in some of the unofficial regional rankings put out by the sports information directors and other sources would be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the region. On the women's basketball side, you got to think Ferris State at 14-5 and second in the GLIAC, probably one of those teams contending for a regional tournament spot as well. So I think the next 2 or 3 weekends is going to be very important as both teams try to, kind of hold serve and get ready for those first regional rankings coming up in the middle of February.
Yeah, and you got to take care of business. And, now is the time for Ferris State, which is going to be on the road more in the second half of this GLIAC schedule, to, not only continue to protect the home floor, which I think both teams have done a pretty good job of over the course of the first half of the regular season schedule of the GLIAC. They've got to be able to continue to do that and continue to hold serve at home. But then you got to look and see, when you have your opportunities to put the pieces together and steal them on the road, then you got to be able to do that. And we've seen it. Of course, last weekend, each of our teams was kind of a victim of that. And that, you get a team that comes in, plays really, really well. Northern Michigan women played exceptionally well on Thursday and won against Ferris State. And then on Saturday, certainly Michigan Tech with Marcus Tomashik, just a game for the ages, and they were able to steal one in overtime. So that's what the Bulldogs are going to have to do at least a few times in the second half of the regular season.
And Bulldogs are going to have to do it on the road here in the second half as well. We mentioned coming up on Monday night, Ferris State hosting Roosevelt, 5:30, 7:30 starts at Wink Arena. It'll be a blackout game. The Bulldogs will be wearing the black uniforms. Fans encouraged to wear the black that night. And then after that, just 2 home games left. One home weekend coming up February 20th and 22nd. The Bulldogs will have the Red Out game, I think, on February 20th. February 22nd is Senior Day, and some other events going on in conjunction with that final weekend. But not a lot of home games left here on the docket for the Ferris State basketball teams. So
get your tickets. If you're a Bulldog fan and you want to see Ferris State in Wink Arena, you want to guarantee opportunities to see Ferris State in Wink Arena, get those tickets now and cheer on the Bulldogs, because these home games over the rest of this regular season are going to be critically important, and the Bulldogs would love to continue to play in front of great home environments. We saw some good home environments on Thursday and Saturday for both teams, and we want to continue to see that as we move through this regular season, because there's some tough opponents coming up, and you want any edge you can get. And when a team has to come on the road and play you, you want to do your best to make it as tough an environment as possible, and that's where the fans can come in and make their part of it.
Of course, this past weekend, Ferris State honored the Bulldog volleyball team on Thursday night, honored the national championship football team on Saturday, and that kind of leads us into our next little segment here on some of the other action going on in Ferris State athletics. Speaking of Bulldog football, coming up on Saturday, there's no basketball on the radio as Ferris State is idle on Saturday, but we will have some coverage with Sandy and myself. It'll be the replay of the football national championship game from December the 21st down in McKinney, Texas. The start time, 1 p.m. for the pregame show, kickoff 2 o'clock, and that'll be the exact same time schedule as it was back on December 21st, of course, when the Bulldogs defeated Valdosta State.
Yeah, has it been that long since we were down in the Dallas, Texas area? But what a great game that was, and I think it's going to be awesome for the fans to get an opportunity to hear that broadcast again and to relive that great memory. And we've already had some great celebrations of the championship teams, and it's exciting for the fans to be able to hear that game again and get that feeling of a live broadcast being replayed here.
Of course, Ferris State hockey will be on the radio this weekend as well. Brody Kaiser will have all the action from Bemidji, Minnesota. The Bulldogs taking on the Beavers on Friday night, 8:07 p.m. puck drop in the Eastern time zone. Pre-game coverage at 7:30 on Saturday night. That'll follow the Bulldog Football National Championship replay. Pre-game coverage right around 6:30 Eastern time with puck drop at 7:07 p.m. from out in Minnesota. The tennis teams will be in action this weekend. We got Bulldog track in action as well. Bulldog softball right around the corner starting early next week in Hawaii. I think they leave on Saturday, and hopefully they'll have some much better weather conditions than we've had here in the state of Michigan.
I like their chances of having better weather conditions. It could be a little bit of rain, who knows? But they're certainly going to have some better weather conditions, and we certainly hope they do, and that they're able to get in their games and really get this season going. Shaping up to be a really good season as Coach Schumann continues to rebuild and strengthen that softball team.
Of course, we hope to have some good weather, some good roads on the way up tomorrow to Bud Cooper Gymnasium, where Ferris State will take on Lake Superior State. Again, pregame coverage will start at 5 p.m. with the women's game 5:30, the men's game to follow at 7:30. The Bulldogs have really a chance here this week to kind of focus on Lake Superior, and then they'll have a few days to kind of get ready for Roosevelt. So kind of a unique week, but one that could help the Bulldogs this week. May see some drawbacks to it coming up next week when they have a short turnaround time to face Davenport.
Yeah, when we have that NBA schedule that kicks in after that. But that's a good point. It's an opportunity really to lock in on Lake Superior State, which is an excellent opponent, really, really good basketball team. A lot of talent left on that team as well. And that was a team that was an NCAA tournament team last year, very good NCAA tournament team, a team that was good enough to make it to the Elite Eight. If they had been in a different region, they probably would have made it to the Elite Eight too. So this is a really, really good team. It's going to be a great game. Ferris State, Lake Superior State games always are really good. So I don't expect anything less on Thursday.
Of course, that on the men's side. And obviously you go back to that regional final last year down in Indianapolis. And for a large chunk of that game, it looked like Lake Superior State was going to be the team moving on to the Division II Elite Eight. And the Bulldogs found enough in them to come back and get that win. But the Lakers jumped out to a huge start in that game. The Bulldogs are going to have to avoid giving up a big start like that.
Yeah, Lake Superior State got off to a great start. Bulldogs had to run a gauntlet, as you would expect in a regional tournament, but they really did. And Lake Superior State got off to a pretty much a best case scenario start in that game and really forced the Bulldogs to have to push back really hard and had to have a lot of things clicking and working in their favor. They had to start getting stops and they started hitting shots, and some of their key players for the Bulldogs really stepped up and hit some big shots, and we were able to pull that out down the stretch. But two great teams battling to make it to the Elite Eight.
Of course, should be an exciting game. We'll have all the action for you. And the Bulldogs getting ready to face the Lakers on Thursday night. Again, Roosevelt coming up on Monday night. We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Beat Basketball Show presented by Two Hats Ranch after this break on the Bulldog Sports Network in Sunny 97.3. And welcome back, everyone, to the Bulldog Beat Basketball Show. Rob Bentley and Sandy Golston with you. We're joined now by Ferris State University junior Mia Riley. Mia, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Obviously, you guys having a great season again, 14-5 overall. Just what's it been like here with a kind of a new team? Obviously, lost a couple key pieces last year, but obviously a lot of players returning from a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, we did lose a few key pieces last year, but it's been fun to see people step up, and the girls have been playing with the last 3 years now to get their chance.
for you, especially maybe just talk about the progress that you've made in your career here this season and coming in after a year ago, seeing obviously your minutes increase and production increase here over the course of the year.
Yeah, I mean, last year I kind of zeroed out almost at the end of the season. So this year it's kind of just a big jump to see like now I'm starting and playing big minutes. So I feel like it just goes to show like you always have to be ready, and like what you do in the off season really matters for the next year. Like never get discouraged and stuff because it'll pay off.
Speaking of the offseason, just how committed was this team in the offseason after reaching the semifinals a year ago, and how much did that kind of help fuel you guys here in the offseason?
We definitely had a chip on our shoulder. Just after last year, this is like the most hardworking team. Everybody puts in the work every single day. Even in season, it's like girls are always going to get shots up, like putting in another hour outside of practice. This is the most hardworking team I've ever been a part of.
And Mia, tell us about your game. Like, describe your game to somebody who's never seen you play, and because you've really taken a big step this year. Just how would you describe your game to somebody who hasn't seen you?
I wouldn't say I'm the tallest or the fastest or the most athletic or anything, but I try to just focus on what I do well, and I feel like I'm a good driver and I can get to the basket and like get into the paint, and then from there I feel like I can be like creative and like up and under, get a layup, get a floater, like fade away, jump shot. I feel like I'm more of an offensive minded player, but I also love playing defense because it's so fun to get like a steal or anything. So it's important to focus on both aspects, obviously, but I feel like I'm definitely more of an offensive minded player.
So take us back to your roots as a basketball player. When did you really fall in love or in like with basketball? What are some of your earliest positive memories of playing basketball?
My brother was always really into basketball, and he's a good 8 years older than me, so he's like, the age gap is pretty big, but he would always take me to the gym and we would just like shoot around together. And then in high school, me and my sister, when we like were working towards trying to win a state championship, he would take us to the gym every single morning. And it was just memories like that, like waking up early before school and going to the gym. Like you don't want to wake up any earlier before school, but things like that were just like fun with him and fun with my sister. It was really just my sister and brothers that helped me fall in love with basketball.
And talk about your high school experience. I had a lot of success there and gained a lot of notoriety, with some of the success that your team had.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Fowler High School. We won 2 state championships. It's such a great program. The community was such a huge aspect of it. There's so many people supporting you constantly. I mean, we had such a big support and just such big backing from everyone. I got to play with my sister. That was my favorite part. We played together 3 years, and our first year we got knocked out with COVID, obviously, but the last 2 years we won state championships together. So,
what's it like for you and your sister following each other now? What's it like now? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of been cranked up here a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we did decide to go to different schools, and we talked about it before we committed and stuff. But now it was definitely the best for us. Like we need to be separate, go our separate ways, but we always talk about it now. We're like, wow, why did we decide to go to different schools? Like we're like driving on the weekends to meet up with each other. She's coming here, I'm going there. But yeah, I mean, it's so fun to play against her and with her. Basketball is just so much better with her. She's hurt this year. She's medically redshirting. She tore ACL, but I always just find that like basketball is so much more fun when she's there to share the experience with.
Isn't it kind of interesting that because Kenzie got to play against her sister earlier in the season. What do you from your perspective watching Kenzie play against her sister, because they literally both were starting in that game. What did you have a feel for what that was like?
It was so cool how they let them have that opportunity and how they got to play against each other and like get big minutes against each other. I mean, I've always played with each other, so you never really know how it is to play against each other. Maybe like once in a while, obviously in the driveway and stuff growing up. But I mean, it's such a cool thing, especially because you just both have worked so hard and you finally get to see that progress show against each other. And
talk about your guys' progress as a team this year, and certainly coming off of last year, getting to the Elite Eight and then winning that quarterfinal game, getting to the Final Four. You guys had to, I don't want to say start over, but you guys had to learn a new team and you guys had to come together. You lost 2 key players. What was it like for you all to learn about each other and to learn how this team was going to work well and be successful together?
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely learning. It was a big learning thing because everyone had to step into different roles. And even with Caden being out this year, she was such a huge part of our team offensively, defensively, like leadership wise. And it's now everyone has to step into these different roles and like maybe pick up a few more rebounds than they usually would, or like score a few more points than they usually would. Or people are going to have to like step up and talk in the huddles more than they usually would. And it's just like a big learning aspect because you're stepping out of your comfort zone and you're just kind of like learning the way, but your teammates are there to do it with you. So.
And that was a devastating injury, obviously, with Caden going down. How are you guys able to rally together and to keep this thing going? And in what role did Caden play in it? Because she still seems really active and vocal there.
Oh, yeah. Caden is the most positive and optimistic person ever. So if you're not doing it for yourself, if you're not doing it for anyone, you're doing it for Caden because she just sees like every day as an opportunity, and she's so happy to just be part of the team and be there every day, and she just brings this energy to the room, and you really just like want to make her proud when you're playing and like do it because she can't this year.
And then one more question before I throw it back to Rob, but what's it like playing in the GLIAC? Because every game is just tough. Everybody's coming at you. Everybody's well coached. Everybody's got all-state players and everybody's good. What's it like?
Oh yeah, it's the best competition. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in any other conference. I love playing against the best competition. It makes you so much better. It gives you a challenge to step up to, and it gives you like things to look forward to and challenge yourself with. So yeah, I love playing in the GLIAC.
Let's go back to this past weekend. Obviously on Thursday night against Northern Michigan, maybe not the outcome you guys wanted. Just how much did that game really stick in the back of your minds when you got ready to face Michigan Tech on Saturday?
It was definitely a learning game. We knew what we lacked in, and we knew what we really need to pick it up on. We kind of tried not to think about it going into Tech because we just know the team that we are, and that was just like played bad, got to pick it up, got to fix some things here and there. But in the end, like we know what team we are, so it wasn't like we had to have this elaborate practice on Friday. It was just like get in, get your shots up, and we knew what we needed to do, and we did it on Saturday. So.
Obviously, you guys shared the ball well, and you had a lot of players capable of scoring the basketball. Just what's it like playing with so many different players on the floor that can all shoot the basketball from the outside? Yeah,
I mean, our team is so talented, and everyone has their own like individual, unique way of playing. It's so fun to play with different like types of players on the court. Like it's fun when I get to play with Emma because she's just such a great shooter. She gets me like 10 assists, I swear. Yeah, it's so fun to play with her. And Grace Lyons, like she has the best floater game I've ever played with. And she's a freshman, so I don't know how she developed that. But yeah, I mean, it's just everyone has these unique parts about their game, and it's just so fun to see them succeed. And I just love being able to watch them get everything that they've been working hard for.
Obviously, not only yourself, but you mentioned Emma, Allie Schultz. Maybe how special has it been to see some of those players that didn't get a whole lot of minutes last year really step up and play some major roles here on this year's team?
Yeah, I love it because I was right there with them last year. We were all like working hard together. Like the games that we wouldn't play, just like treat your warm up as like a workout. And now it's like being able to see them get in the game and like watching them last year coming into this year is just such. It just makes me so happy to see that they're getting everything they deserve. So,
obviously, this week you kind of had the focus on the one game here, Lake Superior State, on Thursday night up in Sault Ste. Marie. What's it going to be like going on the road again here in the GLIAC? And obviously, never easy to win in the conference, and especially to try to do it here on the road.
Yeah, I mean, this will be a big statement win. We need another just win where we can like rally together and have just a really good all around game. Several players in double digits and just everyone playing really well together, really good team defense, and just, yeah, statement.
Obviously, I hear a big month coming up here in the month of February. Only 3 home games left. You guys are going to have to do it here, some on the road. But what's it like knowing that you still got a lot of goals out there in front of you and still a lot of attainable goals here in the final month of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to still have half the GLIAC left because I feel like we have a lot to work on still, and we still have a lot of wins that we want to get and a lot of things that we know we can get there and we know we can do. So it's nice to just have these opportunities out in front of us because we're a great team and I can't wait to see where it takes us.
Obviously, last year, one of your teammates, Mallory McCartney, now an assistant coach. What's it been like to see her on the coaching side now and have to work with her in a little different type of relationship?
I love having Mallory back in Big Rapids. She's one of my best friends, and she just knows the game so well. She was one of the smartest players I've ever played with and best players I've ever played with. And the same with coaching. Like, she knows the game like the back of her hand. She's genuinely like a student of the game. And she just brings this other energy, and she has like that player perspective also because she was right there last year as a player. And she just knows exactly what we need. So she just brings a totally different aspect, and it's amazing to have her. We're so thankful to have her.
Moving away from basketball a little bit here, maybe tell us about your academic major, what you hope to do when basketball and college is all said and done.
So I am a biology pre-optometry major, so I have a lot more schooling here left. But next year I'm going into optometry school, and I'm going to have to balance that with basketball. So it'll be a challenge, but I think it's doable. It's been done before with other sports, so it'll be tough, but I'm excited, and I'm excited to be able to start my postgraduate type stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I'm not sure you have any time left for anything else after school and basketball. But what are some other hobbies you have besides basketball?
I love spending time with my family, my friends, my sister. I like running, weirdly. Jogging.
In the winter?
Not sprinting.
You like it in the winter too?
No, actually. Great question, though. Yeah, I like to read. I like to cook. So I do like those in the winter because it's warmer.
Well, I don't blame you.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, Mia, thanks for the time so much, and best of luck to the Bulldogs coming up this week, Thursday night at Lake Superior, and then obviously back at home Monday night.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We'll be back with more of the Bulldog Beat basketball show after this quick break here on the Bulldog Sports Network. And welcome back, everyone, to our final segment here on the Bulldog Beat basketball show presented by Two Hats Ranch as Ferris State gets set here for a road trip coming up tomorrow on Thursday. The Bulldogs at Lake Superior State, back at home, though, on Monday night to face Roosevelt University. Two great guests on the show today with assistant coach Josh Fleming on the men's basketball side and Mia Riley, who's played a major role here for this women's basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, to see the improvement that Mia has made and, the positive attitude she had, the year before as a sophomore, and maybe didn't get quite as much playing time on a team, that had a couple of high-end players, but she learned her lessons well and put in the work, and she has been sensational this year for the Bulldogs, and certainly happy to have her as a key part of this team. And then Josh Fleming, of course, a former player, we had a chance to watch and call his games at courtside, and to see him grow into the coach that he has grown into has been fantastic. And so definitely fun hearing those two perspectives today.
I think over the course of my time here at Ferris State, we've had some players that obviously have made some huge strides over the course of their careers, but to make one jump from not getting a whole lot of minutes to being a major player like Mia has, like Nate Clairbout has on the men's basketball side, maybe two of the best examples we've had here in the same season. Yeah,
exactly. In the same season is the key phrase to add to that. And it really shows you the commitment that both coaching staffs have. And we talked with Coach Fleming about that in terms of player development, player improvement, and getting players to work hard and step up. Now, the coaches can only do so much. Eventually, the players have to be willing to do it. And we've seen, you mentioned, two great examples. Nate Clairbout on the men's side did not get a lot of playing time, and now he's like one of the most feared shot blockers you're going to see in Division II college basketball. And so, he certainly is improving and getting better offensively and making some nice plays on the offensive end as well. And then Mia is just an engine that just never quits. I mean, she just plays hard, and you love that. So you bring that to the table, that you play hard, and she's had the skill set. And so she's growing and having confidence in her skills, and you can really see it playing out on the basketball floor. We've
kind of mentioned that during our conversation with her, but I think on the men's basketball side, the same a lot of times can be said, but to have five players out there at one time, all capable of kind of shooting the three, all capable of playing some different roles offensively is really an exciting brand of basketball that both teams have been able to play.
Yeah, I think when you look at the women's side and how many shots they get up, we'll start with them. They are a team that can have five shooters on the floor at all times that can hit the 3-point shot. And they spend a lot of time working on it in practice, and you see it really working out when they're on their game. Almost everybody that comes in is capable of shooting the three. And so, Mia is certainly one of those players that has improved that with her game. And on the men's side, of course, obviously you have Ethan Erickson, one of the best shooters in the country. And he is certainly one of the guys that you look at and you say, man, this guy can really drop it in. But then you got Jackson Whitaker, and what a game! What a game he had the other day, where he was just on fire. I think he hit his first 6 threes. He was fantastic, and so and it's not just those two. There are a number of guys that really work on shooting that three and really spreading the floor. And so it's really great brand of basketball. And I think our fans have really enjoyed that brand of basketball.
Of course, had some great crowds here again this past weekend at Wink Arena. Obviously on Saturday with Kids Day, there was a ton of energy in the building with hockey going on, youth hockey going on, high school hockey going on, Ferris hockey going on. And then on the basketball side, obviously some great crowds and some loyal supporters that have came out and followed these teams. And why not? 2 teams that went to the Elite Eight a year ago and 2 teams right back in the very mix here again this season.
Well, I mean, there's some great supporters and certainly some supporters close to the team. When you think of the Rebounders Club, Booster Club for the men's team and the Six Dog Club for the women's team, a lot of those supporters. And then you've got a great group of parents on both sides. And, one of the great traditions that, Coach Bronckheimer really got going, Rob, is after games, win or loss, they go up and they thank the fans for coming to the game and for supporting them. And that's helped build some strong relationships that has those fans coming back and supporting this team more and more. And you've seen our attendance numbers have really been very strong. And I think a big part of that is the great relationship that our coaches, our players have with our fans.
Of course, I think Coach Bronckheimer, one that started that, it's kind of carried over not only for men's basketball now, but now we're seeing the women's basketball team do it. Not that they didn't appreciate the fans before, but they're doing the same thing. I've seen even my own daughter's high school team at Big Rapids High School doing the same thing. So something that's kind of carried over here to basketball in the community.
It's great, and I know our fans really, really appreciate it. And again, it's not just them going up and hugging their parents, which we probably always had that, but just going up and thanking the fans that they see regularly, the fans that are making their way to Wink Arena for the first time, to really thank them for their support. And that really pays off, Rob, when you look at the crowd that we had at Grand Valley in the regional championship game last year for women's basketball. We had a huge crowd, a huge Ferris crowd in that building, and that was a lot of blue and white in the stands, but we had a lot of red and gold in the stands as well. And going with the women's basketball team to St. Joseph, Missouri, and going with the men's basketball team to Evansville, and just supporting the team wherever they go. And so those are important bonds that are built between the players and the fans.
Of course, that's been here in the local community, something the fans have had some great opportunities to follow some great teams, not only at the college level, at the high school level. We mentioned Big Rapids High School had a great football team this past fall. Their basketball teams right now, the women's team, I think a single loss. The boys are doing pretty well as well. So some good teams to follow just here in the Big Rapids area, not counting some of the other teams here in the local area.
Yeah, I can remember being out in the tailgate for our tailgate show for football, and we were talking about how it's just like a football city because of how well, in an area of football, because how well Big Rapids was doing. Reed City was having some success in football as well. And, what you mentioned with the Big Rapids basketball teams, both basketball teams, and how well they're doing this year. And it just really builds in the community, and you see great crowds at Big Rapids High School. You see great crowds at Jim Wink Arena, and you see some crossover. You see some of the Big Rapids people coming to support Ferris State and vice versa. So it's just really makes us proud to be part of such a great community.
Of course, we mentioned Ferris State on the road tomorrow night at Lake Superior State. We'll have the pregame coverage for you at 5 o'clock. Women tip off at 5:30. The men at 7:30. Then the community will have a chance to come out on Monday night back at home for a blackout game. It's going to be Community Heroes Night as well. All first responders can get in free coming up on Monday night. So trying to draw a crowd here for these Monday night games. Here are a couple big matchups against Roosevelt. With only 3 home games left here, they're all going to be big for the Bulldogs in terms of their goals of trying to get some postseason games here at home.
Yeah, I mean, first with that promotion, I love that for first responders. I mean, I love all of our promotions, but that's a great one because they do so much for our communities. And we've seen around the country what first responders do and the important role that they play in communities. And so it's going to be great to have them there to be recognized. And also it's going to be great to have their support. And so you guys have done a lot of great work to have some outstanding promotions that are really welcoming the community to Ferris State and introducing them to Ferris State. Not that they don't necessarily know, but you can never introduce yourself too much. You can never shake too many hands or get too many hugs. And I think that's just all part of building a great relationship. And that's going to be important because, like you said, there's some big games coming up. When you think of Roosevelt coming in here and you think of the support that the Bulldogs are going to need from some of those fans who are going to follow us on the road to play. And then some of the games that we're going to have down the stretch of the season, which might hopefully include some GLIAC, at least GLIAC quarterfinal home games. And so that's a long ways away, but we're certainly hoping for continued great fan support.
Of course, some work to be done for both teams. Both teams very much in the mix right now to finish near the top of the conference. The Bulldog men currently tied for first place overall with both Lake Superior and Michigan Tech coming into the week. The Bulldog women a couple games back in second place behind Grand Valley State atop the GLIAC. They'll be at GVSU coming up next Saturday afternoon. Rare Saturday afternoon doubleheader. We'll talk more about that next week, but the Bulldogs are kind of a rare Saturday afternoon doubleheader at GVSU. I'm not sure when the last time that has happened.
It is strange. I was thinking about that the other day, and it slipped my mind until you just mentioned it right there. But you're right that they're almost always night games. Even when they've been Saturday games, they've been night games. And so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of crowd we get for afternoon. And hopefully I shouldn't say hopefully, I would expect we're going to have strong crowds down there. We typically do, just like we typically have good crowds up here down the hall in Wink Arena. So I think the fans understand the rivalry and what it means to them, and what it means to them is a lot. So I would expect we'll have some good crowds.
Of course, we hope to have some Bulldog fans up in Sault Ste. Marie tomorrow night. Big matchup between the Bulldogs and the Lakers. The Bulldog women looking for their 15th win already here this season. The Bulldog men with a huge challenge against a team that's also ranked in the top 15 in the nation in Lake Superior, a rematch of last year's regional final. And of course, the Bulldogs won a close game over the Lakers here earlier this season. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to the call before the Bulldogs come back at home on Monday night. But should be an exciting week again here of Ferris State basketball action.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting week. It's going to be a good road trip to go up there and to play a rival team that's going to come ready to go. And so, again, those are always exciting games between Ferris State and Lake Superior State, and looking forward to that. And getting into this stretch of the season. I mean, this is exciting time. I mean, we're getting closer and closer to tournament time, and that's one of the best times of the year. You start to talk about March Madness here pretty soon.
Of course, we'd like to thank all of our advertising sponsors for making this broadcast possible, including Two Hats Ranch, the presenting sponsor of the Bulldog Beat basketball show. Big thanks to Steve Masters at Sunny 97.3, along with Brody Kaiser, our production manager here on this episode of the show. Huge thanks to the president of Ferris State University, Dr. Bill Pink, athletic director Steve Brocklebank, and our entire crew. Looking forward to watching this team in action over the next month, and looking forward here to continuing the show here until the season is all said and done.
Yeah, we had another good show in the books, and we're carrying that momentum from Bulldog Blitz into Bulldog Beat, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm excited to keep this thing going.
That'll do it for episode number 2 of the Bulldog Beat basketball show. For my partner Sandy Golston, Rob Bentley with you. Have a great evening, everyone, and be sure to tune in on Thursday and on Monday for Bulldog basketball action right here on the Bulldog Sports Network and Sunny 97.3.